Hey all, I'm Anthony, and today I'm going to talk to you about a day at work with Nintendo of America. Now, I had the title of Brand Ambassador. Now, if you're familiar with anybody, you've gone to a store and saw a guy in gray or red Nintendo shirt with a little logo, typically you would see the district representative. Now, the district representative was responsible for quote-unquote merchandising multiple stores in a district. For example, the guy here in Northern Ohio, he had some from Sandusky to the Pennsylvania border to Columbus. And he would hit 80 plus stores a month, usually twice a month each store, go into each store and make sure that they had anything they needed and that he would straighten up the product, make sure it looks good, if he had access to it. It just depends, because some stores gave them keys for the Nintendo reps and then others maybe didn't. So my job was kind of like a boiled down, only this county version of it. So I had 9 stores in my county that were Best Buy, Target, and Walmart. Now the district rep, he actually had Best Buy, Target, Walmart, GameStop. It probably had Myers, which just popped up in this area. There's probably a couple others I don't know, but I'm just responsible for these 3 stores. So I had them all over the county, and I live closer to Lake Erie, so what I would do is schedule my furthest store, which is an hour plus away, in the middle of a day trip. And I should point out, Nintendo pays extremely well, and they pay mileage. So it made sense for me to start my day closer, go to the far store, end my day in another closer store, basically my way back home, and then come home. So I would typically start a day with going into the store and typically customer service or security, depending on which store, and sign in on a piece of paper. Then, in the case of Best Buy, I would go to a computer and log in. So Best Buy had 2 systems, Target and Walmart only 1. Then I would go into the department for wherever they are. Best Buy doesn't really have departments in the traditional sense of a large big box store. For Target and Walmart, I go to electronics. For Best Buy, I would go to the video game area. So once I'm there, I look for whoever the manager is in charge of those specific areas, introduce myself. I only had to do this for the first couple of weeks because afterwards they pretty much knew me. And then go, hey, I'm here to straighten this up, make it look pretty, take some pictures. So once they were like, oh, okay, and then introduced me to whoever they're what, or gave me keys, or had somebody tag along with me. For the first couple of weeks, I usually had a tag along. Afterwards, I was just left to my own devices. So I would go and take pictures of the accessories, the consoles, and the games. And basically how they are before pictures of what they are. Then I would have to keep track of how many consoles, games, and accessories I put out as I'm straightening up. My methodology, and I don't know if anybody else was any different, because there was like 300 people doing the same job I was. I would first off see if there's anything to be put out, and Best Buy kind of just let me do it. They really didn't have anybody dedicated to any game systems, so when the game company reps came in, it was pretty much, hey, game company rep, you do your job. We're letting you have this. This is yours. So I would go in the back, check what there is, and then of course I would mark down how many of 5 games, 20 consoles, 13 accessories, whatever random number, what actually the actual numbers were. I wasn't just making up random numbers. That would be lying. So put the information in, and then I would take the stuff, usually sometimes in a cart, and with or without my chaperone, I guess, go back to the section, and then I would put everything in spaces. Now, then I would straighten up, because if I would have done it first, then I'd have to rearrange everything again to put this new content out. Best Buy, again, just really let me do what I felt was right, and I really like that freedom, but it also came at the cost of, during the holidays, Best Buy wasn't really paying any attention to the Nintendo section, so I would, at some point, actually had to go in twice as much to Best Buy than I did Walmart or Target, which was fine. The experience with Best Buy, and keep in mind, they have a real close relationship with Nintendo, was probably the best experience I had, because there was so much more to do, so many more people willing to talk to me. It was among the most active stores that I went to. So, and I'm not trashing the other stores, but the other stores are not focused electronics stores. They are straight up, hey, electronics is a department in this store. But Best Buy, it's all electronics. So I straighten up. Games, of course, are in alphabetical order. So I would do that sorting, and then they have those little cards that go behind each group of games. So you could potentially have like 8 different cards behind one copy of each game in these little shelves. And then once that's done, I would go and straighten up the accessories. Now, all the stores employ a planogram, basically a map telling them how to display everything. So while it isn't specific to games per se, accessories and consoles, like, you cannot deviate. And I actually tried. I tried at each store, and it wasn't to test the water. It was more that, like, well, this logically makes sense here rather than over here. But somebody at corporate at these companies have decided, hey, this is actually how we want it, despite how I think it should look. So I would arrange things as a planogram. Best Buy really think, actually Best Buy and Walmart both had a thing about things being on the bottom shelf. So try not to put too much on there. And then you would make sure that during the holiday time when they had the extra shelving up, that you would at least try to label what you can. Because they allowed me to do overflow, just overstocking, and which was great because it needed it. Because originally, prior to the holidays, I was visiting Best Buys, each of them only once a week, before I had to double up. And then I would come in, and then the top shelves would be just empty. So I'd have to restock them every couple of days. So then I go to consoles, and the consoles, for some reason, and I just feel like it's maybe convenience, they just didn't restock them. So in the case of Best Buy, I'd have to borrow a special key. I would put the items into the case, and of course lock the case back up, and it looks pretty. It's all full. Well, I mean, it wasn't until the shortage of Switches, because the Switches just disappeared like the week of Christmas, and then like the next week to 2 weeks afterwards, you just could not find a Switch in any of these stores. Walmart, during the course of this time, actually started putting everything in glass. Like, while I was at one Walmart, they were actually taking... So they'd convert the entire Nintendo section and put it all in the cases. So everything was behind glass. And at the time, they were also taking all the DVDs and Blu-rays that were still like full priced and putting them in holders that, you know, they're magnetically sealed holder. Because this, at least one of these particular stores has just huge amount of shrinkage. So they just pretty much sealed everything up. And when I was finished with this particular job, only like one Walmart still hadn't put everything behind glass, and every other store had. So it was interesting. It's kind of a sad thing to see that you can no longer just go grab a game off a shelf, go to the register. Too many people are just taking advantage of the system. So what I'd have to do is I'd grab an associate unless I had the keys on me, and I would go into the cases. Typically, I start with consoles, straighten that up. Again, always trying to see if there's new product. In the case of Walmart and Target, I rarely got to go in the back. I usually just asked whoever was in charge of the department at the time if they had anything back there and if they could put it out. Most of the time, it was no. But on the few occasions that they could, it was great, and it gave me something more to do during that visit. So, put out the consoles, straighten up. Again, planograms, so you got to put everything in the right places. Then we go to accessories, and so there's this thing where it's called flexing, where you want to make the shelf look as full as possible, but that's kind of hard to do when there's planograms. One of the Walmarts did allow me to use my judgment on it, and I could flex into areas where there was nothing, but otherwise I wasn't allowed to do much more than that. I couldn't move the pins around or whatever. So I would flex the accessories if possible, the games if I could, and then there's the budget games that they had outside of the glass cases. Again, everything is planograms, so there's really not too much you can do. So I would straighten them up, because people would pull a game off a case, look at it, go, I don't want this, put it back in a random spot. So you have to fix that. So then once that's done, I stand there for however much longer I'm at the store. Because I'm working 8-hour days, I have to plan my day out accordingly. So if I'm only hitting 3 stores, I'm probably at each store for 2.5 hours, and then if I'm working 4, I'm there for 1 and 3/4 hours each. Because I have to also plan travel time, walking from my car, or walking from the store to my car, vice versa, getting from one store to the other in my car. So I wait for people to come up to me, and of course, when they walk into the aisle, I go, "Hey, what brings you here today? What are you looking for?" You know, questions that aren't yes or no. And typically, I can help most people. And one of the biggest things that bother me was people talking about, "Hey, I'm just going to wait until the Pro comes out." I'm like, well, I mean, Nintendo's made it very clear there is no Pro coming out, so I try not to lose that sale. I tell them the truth because I have no reason to lie to them. I believe that if there was a Pro coming out, Nintendo would announce it. Fact is, Nintendo has made a number of products that never get released. I think somebody had a statistical number, like 20% of products that are actually considered or planned just never get past the planning stages. You ever heard of development hell? This is what we're talking about. Nintendo has probably made just a lot of systems or games that just never got released. So it wouldn't, you know, there's no Pro. So try to make the sale. Occasionally, somebody will need into the cases that are locked, so I'd have to get associated if I didn't have the keys, and of course make that sale. And the one thing I didn't do was actually ring anybody up. So I would basically help them find what they were looking for, take them to the register, or point them to the register, depending on the store setup, and then make sure the sale happens. Obviously, if there's any product that had been previously locked, I keep it with me, take it to the register, because you do not give product to people. If it's locked, there's a reason for it being locked. So you take it to the register, make sure that the cashier knows that this product is for these people, and that they don't get to touch it until they bought it. Sounds harsh, but that's why everything's in glass cases now, because people sometimes will go, "Oh, yay, I just got a $300 free system," and walk out the door. I mean, there are stories about people, you know, finding gullible associates, and I do not want to be one of those. So, let's say I'm done with the store visit, I've straightened up, I put out new product, I have to take pictures again. So I take pictures of everything, which typically shows that I have straightened up the section. And again, consoles, accessories, and the games. On rare occasion, like between helping a customer and right before I leave, the store might sell one of the things. So I have occasional pictures where you'll see that a system has been removed, and I never got a chance to straighten it back up, but I have to leave. I have a schedule to keep. So take the pictures, everything gets uploaded, and I move on to the next store. And then the process repeats, and you do it 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times a day, depending on how many visits you're going to make. I worked 4 days a week, which worked out rather nicely for me because it gave me, well, I had the way I set it up was I had 3 long days and 1 short day, so it gave me opportunity to be home for 4 days a week to be with my family. So it worked out rather nicely for me. I love flex scheduling. There was core hours of 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. you had to be working, but when you start and when you end, otherwise it's up to you. So it was really a nice experience. I fully enjoyed it. Now, I should note that there was a lot of like just standing there waiting for people to come down the aisle. During the week running up to the holidays and 2 weeks after, it wasn't too bad. Or actually reverse it. It was the 2 weeks before and the 1 week after it wasn't too bad. But the rest of the time was like, well, I guess I'm just going to wait. And you can't really do too much. One of my last days, I was at Target, and a group of kids came down and they were curious about the Switch, and I showed them the Mario and Sonic at the Olympics game, the Olympics Games game, and ended up with 8 kids competing on a demo for a game in the, I think it was the 100 meter. And I had to teach them how to time their jumps. But afterward, then the kids were cheering and screaming. It was a good. It was like I killed about an hour of time, and then I had to leave afterwards. I had to go to the next store. But there was occasional pickups like that, and at most of the stores there were demo systems, so it really helped on selling the product, especially when the demos included a unboxing video and basic features video. So there was like 4 videos you can show people if they had questions that maybe you weren't too sure about. But otherwise, I had a demo system they had let me have that I used, and so if it wasn't in the demo system setup, and then I would take a demo system and give them hands-on. So I had them the Joy-Cons, or I had them the whole thing. It was the deluxe system. I had Luigi's Mansion 3 for a while in there. I think it's Smash Brothers, Mario Kart, so people could try different games. I actually more kids are interested in Luigi Mansion 3 than anything else. But anyway, actually had an occasion where played Smash Brothers with a group of people. So overall, it was a good experience. And if they asked me to do it again next year, I may strongly consider it. Depends on what else I have going on. The boring parts were but when the full-on active parts was it was an enjoyable experience. And that is a day working for Nintendo as one of their reps. Remember to like and subscribe. Thank you for checking out our content. Before you leave, please remember to click like and then subscribe. If you want to receive notifications, do not forget to enable them by clicking on the bell. Then afterwards, check out our social media at HasledgeNet and our website at hasledge.net.